Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the FPL Script. This is season 3, episode 23. Otherwise, our Gameweek 30 preview for the 24-25 FPL season. Some information gained over the international break, I think, and then a lot more left to be desired after the culmination of the Sunday's FA Cup games. We know the FA Cup semi-final matchups. We also have a little bit more fixture-related information, but I think some of the results just haven't been great, and that Haaland injury has just thrown everything into a spanner. But we're just going to briefly recap Game Week 29. You had a pretty good Game Week. How was it, JD?
Hi everyone, I'm so rusty, man. I have to genuinely look at the screen just to remind myself of what the team was.
Right.
So I think Bellegarde, I will obviously remember, and I think that is probably the best thing about my season so far, which is quite telling that
It was a pretty
such
big
a
haul.
suboptimal move actually paid off. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I did put him at 70 minutes, so it's not as if I went
Yeah.
wild
Fair.
with his xMins and I was ultra optimistic or something. But like I said, I spoke with Fran immediately after we stopped streaming for Game Week 29, and I
Yeah.
asked him what I should do. And to be honest, what Fran said was the right move, which was to take a -4 for Guardiola. But I just couldn't bring myself to doing that. So I'm just glad it worked out in terms of outcome. But yeah, Palmer not playing was actually bad for both of us because the auto subs don't matter anyway. But Palmer playing would have mattered much more. Even if it were like 2-3 points, it would have been much better than people getting auto subs. Because I don't know, maybe did people get a lot of auto subs? I forgot to check the
Nah,
auto
but I
sub
mean, like,
stats.
most of our auto subs were like 1 point, right? So it's just,
No, for us, yes,
yeah.
but I'm thinking about, I don't know, top 10k, top 100k stats.
No, it's true. I don't think we saw many auto subs, to be honest. A lot of people did sell Palmer in the end.
Yeah, and I think not captaining Bruno, I don't know, I was probably never doing that, so
I
yeah.
mean, I think what was interesting was that the market odds had it a lot closer between Haaland and Bruno.
They did. Yeah,
Mm,
that's fair.
but I don't really know what to say about it. I mean, I ignored Bruno because I wasn't going to captain him, and obviously that was like awful.
No,
You
but
know?
see, uh, and I think you will agree with me that I don't think you expected his ownership to be this much, right? Because I was shocked to see how little I gained
I
from
think
the
I
17
think
points.
I think it's because there were around 17% of people who free hitted. So
Great.
I have to
Fair,
imagine 100% of those
fair,
people had Bruno.
fair.
So suddenly Bruno
Yeah,
became a
minimum
30,
100%
30
EO for them.
exactly, a
Yeah,
35%
yeah.
EO pick. And some
Hmm.
people also captained him, right? Because not everyone went for Holland. So I think when you add
Yeah,
it up, the EO actually makes sense. But I think what hurt is just the whole, right? Like 17
that's
points
true.
is insane. So,
Yeah, that is true.
and yeah, I decided to do
Yeah.
the move, which was to go for Clover, which gives me a little bit more money back this week to make a move. And now I have to make a move that's worse anyways, because I have Holland injured. So that's nice. And I could have just gone Bruno actually instead. And I think it would have actually been negative EV over the 2 weeks because I really think Kluivert's going to start this game in the midweek, especially if Tavernier is injured. So I can just be so happy that I made the right decision again. Yeah, I don't know. I've been on 7 reds in a row, so it's been pretty rough. I look at the screen now and I realize I've still had a pretty fortunate season, so maybe I should shut up.
Yeah.
But that was it.
No. But like I said, it's all relative. So
No,
you can't always look at it's like looking at below poverty line and always thinking you're lucky. Of course you are lucky, but at the same time, there's like it's contextual. So
I'm
yeah, I
just
understand.
less unlucky than you are. I would say I wouldn't say I'm
Yeah,
lucky.
great way of putting it.
If I could
Yeah,
correct that, but no.
yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Seriously though, Game Week 30. Here we are. Predicted doubles and
Yes.
blanks provided by Solio Analytics. They had a big announcement this week as well, which was that Praz is going to join them as their main YouTube host for the 25-26 season, I believe. And yeah, so like making huge strides, and we're very eager to see what they do. I did apply for the beta test phase. I'm not sure if I'll get accepted. Probably not. I don't know if you did, but
I didn't, but I unfortunately don't have the time.
that's all right.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful graphic from JC or at johnnyc.bsky.social. You can find him on Blue Sky, of course. It's basically a reflection of the FA Cup outcomes that we have so far. As you can see, extremely high likelihood that we have an Arsenal and Aston Villa double and double Gaming 33. part of this is because the schedule makers have to take it into account that Aston Villa and Arsenal are both included, or still alive in European games, and you can't just expect that Arsenal and Arsenal and Aston Villa lose their ties, as I hope they do. But we also have a small likelihood of Nottingham Forest and Brentford moving there, and I think some people might not understand what's going on here, but Nottingham Forest already have a game on Monday in Gameweek 33, and crucially, I think the expectation is that the Nottingham Forest double can just move elsewhere on the schedule. So, or it could say in blank Gameweek 34 if it gets scheduled towards the midweek. So that's kind of the outcome of that. So we have very few doubles because Bournemouth also lost, and I think the big pro coming out of this is we have very definitive impacts on when we free hit, with that Crystal Palace game being crystallized. So, well, not crystallized, but almost crystallized. And
almost, yeah.
The beauty of that is, those Crystal Palace players you carry through towards Game Week 33, where they hopefully double, and that makes free at 34 all the more better looking as a strategy. Do you think there's been significant impacts on bench boost 32 versus 33, or do you think they're quite even now?
I saw a lot of people talking about bench boosting now in 32 rather than 33. So I ran the solves. I already sent you the comparison for my team, and it's still triple captaincy 32 is still coming up.
Can I ask a question? Do you think that's because of triple captaincy, or do you think bench boost 30?
So okay, good one. So I was actually coming to that. It has probably nothing to do with triple captaincy. It's more to do with bench boosting. So I am of course assuming, like Fran said, that the Arsenal Crystal Palace and the Villa Man City double is going to crystallize in 33.
Yeah.
And so giving 100% probability to those two fixtures is giving me triple captaincy 32, bench boost 33 as the top choice. So the Forest Brentford game has officially been removed for now from Game Week 34 from the game.
Yeah.
But like Fran said, it could be added back to the same game week, and it would be midweek if that were the case, because they play in 33 and 35 on Mondays. So it could easily be a midweek fixture. So we'll have to wait for that. But I mean, if Chris Wood is not fit, and we are primarily looking at defense anyway, I don't know, maybe there's a way to postpone these decisions. And I think the best way to postpone is obviously postpone the wildcard. But I mean, there's immediate gains to be made, right? So I think that's the biggest plus point for wildcarding now. For my team, it's a straight up ATV gain. If I wildcard right now, so I'm gaining 8 expected points compared to other wildcard slots like 31, which is the second best for my team. So I don't know. I mean, it's very confusing because seeing Holland in the protective boot is not great. But Fran is the one I think who pointed out in our group chat that Ederson also was in a similar situation.
I remember that because Ederson was so funny last season because I didn't go Ederson. I had Guardiola, so I was just laughing at all the people who owned Ederson.
Absolutely.
But he did appear, I think, literally within either a week's time or like 3 days time. Remember, he went from protective boot to starting a Premier League match. So everyone gets in the protective boot. But I will also say that Saka also left in a protective boot before he had a scheduled surgery for his hamstring. So it means nothing and everything, but I think it probably, on the safe side, would be safe to assume that Haaland misses out versus Leicester at the bare minimum.
Oh yeah, because I like you said, the game is so one-sided already that he is really not needed in that game.
Yeah,
they can really afford. Although I mean, I understand that Man City this season in the league is not doing too well, but I think in the overall context of things, it's already like they've written off the league, right? So what's the point? So they might as well focus on the FA Cup.
Still need that Champions League spot, right?
That's fair actually. Yeah. And if it's like going to the 5th place, then I think they would remiss missing out on the Champions League.
So, why not Game Week 33 wildcard in your situation? Because I feel like 8 ADV is a lot, right? Is it just the Haaland consideration, or the fixture consideration, or both?
So I own Holland and Trent. So that's sort of, if I in terms of expected value, I think it's very clear, right? If you keep them on the bench, you're losing out on 15.5 million, I think, or something around that on the bench from just 2 players, which is crazy. Oh no, I'm trolling. It's what is it? 22 million almost. 22 million from 2 players. My bad. So if it's 22 million from 2 players, I mean, it's not worth it if you want to look at it from expected value. But I am looking at it like Fran mentioned in the beginning as a lack of information. So I think because there's lack of information, I still want to try to wait for Wildcard 31. Also because if Holland is going to be back in a week or two, what's the point in going Marmoush, right? Even though surprisingly, the Wildcard 30 template right now, or not template, but the solve I ran does not have Marmoush in it anyway.
It doesn't. I don't think so. No.
Which is fair, right? Because I think if I've used a free transfer value of 2, and I think that automatically means that if you have to go from Marmoush to Holland and then back from Holland to someone else, I think review just prefers not going there, just to begin with.
Yeah, it just comes down to like whether you think Holland comes back or not. Because we also know that for every game Holland misses, Marmoush is just a better pick as well with penalty share that we can't really, I think, see right now in terms of review. So that will change a lot of our estimations of how good Marmoush is. And but yeah, I guess the thing is, what if we got the information on let's say we know Holland's out for 1 game, is it, and the solver still seems to approve Gameweek 30? I guess what else and what other information would push you to not wildcard in your position?
So unfortunately, because of my internet, I lost out on what duration did you say? Like how,
well, no,
how
what
long
I was
would
saying
he
was
be
like,
out for?
if you kind of knew Holland's timeline before the deadline.
Oh, I see what you
mean.
If we
get, let's say, a press conference and he kind of explains, we won't see Holland for a while, or so on and so forth. Does that feel a little bit better for your wildcard?
Yes. If I know for a fact when Holland is going to be back, that actually changes things, because right now I've changed Holland's minutes to such that he will be back in Gameweek 35. Okay. But even then, it's not like 90 minutes. I've put him at like around 60 after like, for example, 0, 0, 10, 30, and then sort of 60. So because like you said, we have absolutely no idea what it's going to be. So I don't want him to be like a legitimate option, but at the same time, I don't want Marmoush to be a legitimate option until I know what the situation is. So if I were to know the full resolution of that, I think that would help review as well, because then the penalty share will be almost final, and then you can make decisions based off that. But assuming that's very unlikely to happen, I'm just going to try to see if I can delay. But it doesn't feel good to leave at one of Trent or Holland on the bench. I mean, it's because I have only 1 free transfer, so I don't know. Are you closer to wildcarding, by the way? Because we haven't spoken about what you're planning on doing with having much more team value than I.
I don't think I'll wildcard. But I don't really know what's stopping me from not doing it, I guess, is probably a fair point. I think if we got Holland information, really, like Nottingham Forest versus Brentford, I'm not sure if that's so important to us, but maybe it could be. And that's the only thing I'd probably leave on the table. And I think it's just the idea that, when you have injuries that are so significant, like we have, for example, a friend of ours in Mo who wildcard in 29. In theory, the wildcard 29 draft or the template still looks super good, right? Like Evan Nilsson is actually a really strong pick. I just ran some solves and he still pops up on a wildcard with no double game week. Because that's also because João Pedro's minutes aren't well reflected. Someone like Kluivert still sits on the wild card. So, like that template is still very, very strong, but then you suddenly have someone like Holland who's injured, right? Like not crazy, I suppose, that, a Palmer gets injured again or Salah miraculously gets injured. No, it's not happening, of course. Why would people be so kind? I'm kidding, but
so okay, can I prefer a suggestion why I think we are hesitating to wildcard? I think it's also because of Saka, because it's going to be Gameweek 30 after Gameweek 30 when there's going to be more information, I think.
I like what you're saying,
but maybe not even then, because the Real Madrid game is when they are sort of expecting him to come back, right?
I just can't see him playing minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't know, man. And like you said, if Palmer is not going to be like 90 minutes, or if he like suffers a reoccurrence of the
Like
injury,
he's
then
got to cameo at Everton for like
yes,
10-15 minutes again.
has to. He just can't be dropped into the Real Madrid game. It's not
I
happening.
just
It's not happening.
it's gonna be like
Yeah.
it's gonna be a double cameo really. And then he plays Real Madrid. But then he's got like you've got to manage his minutes somehow. Like I just don't think Saka's gonna play a role in our wildcards.
But he's an interesting option, right? Because we discussed this before, and Odegaard is right now a part of the Wildcard 30 solve, which is just not going to happen, right?
I think
If
he's on
Saka
your
is going to be
wildcard
back,
30 solve.
then
I don't see him on mine
yeah,
if I can
yeah,
say
because
that.
you have more team value. So I'm assuming
Probably.
this is a better way to spend money in your position.
Maybe. I don't get Saka back in my own structure, if I can say that.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm not seeing Saka back, even though I have his minutes very optimistically high, right? Like, let's say 30-31 is like 0-10 or
Got it.
0-20 or something around that. And then game week 32, it jumps up to like 60. And then game week 33 is like 75 plus. So even with those minutes, he's not showing up. Because I think the double is still probably a little dicey. I don't know. Is it too soon for him to play back-to-back 90s? It's all up in the air, I think.
I just can't see it. I can't.
Yeah.
Because they're so locked into getting second in the league, and
They're locked and they just want to focus on Champions League. That's the only thing they have now. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I feel like if we got really good Haaland information before the deadline, I actually would be quite interested in wildcarding.
Same.
I think because I just have to take a hit this week. Unless Dango starts.
I mean, unless you're wildcarding, you mean?
Yeah. Unless a wildcard.
Okay, yeah, good. So maybe this is like part of the xMins chat, but I was going to come to Dango because I think that's very critical to
I think
both
he
our
can
teams.
start now.
I do think that because what has happened to Tavernier, by the way? Did someone ask Iraola?
I haven't seen any sort of questions
That's
on that.
crazy. Maybe because they lost, someone didn't bother to ask him about one of his players not even in the squad. I mean, that's sort of big news, right?
Yeah. No, but to be fair, I listened to the post-match press conferences for both managers. He wasn't asked about it. He just kind of spoke about how he didn't think they deserved the win because they weren't pressing well in the second half. And obviously, I don't know if you watched the game, but like, yeah, said he made some good tactical adjustments.
Oh yeah. I saw that. The second half was so much better than the first half.
I think if I thought Dango would start, then actually I wouldn't take a hit for Salah. And I really don't want to take a hit for Salah anyways, because it's like, why am I taking -4 to get the same team as everyone else? And honestly, it's gonna be a better team than everyone else, but as things have gone lately, like, it doesn't really matter unless I make the same silly decisions. So yeah, I think I'll most likely just do Haaland to Marmoush. Expect that Marmoush plays 90 minutes, captain Marmoush for Palmer, call it a day for game week 30.
What EV are you getting right now for game week 30?
If I think if
let's say Dango plays good minutes.
Should I say that Marmoush is Isak, for example, his EV for now?
That's a good proxy.
I think that's fine, right? Like, because I think he's either going to be level Isak or he's going to be better. I know some people think he could be subbed earlier, but I can't see it.
If there's no way. If Haaland is out, what's the expectation? I don't understand.
Yeah. So are you allowing me to have Marmoush at Dango at like 60 minutes?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Kluivert with his
do
silly low minutes as well. Well then, okay, if I change...
Let's do Kluivert 70. I think Kluivert will play 70.
Well, I've got him at I've got everyone else on default, which means Kluivert very low, Trossard very, very low, like both sub 70. João Pedro sub 70. Crazy, by the way. Crazy.
Nah.
I still have 60 EV, which I think is quite strong.
That's actually pretty good.
So
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I won't be wildcarding 31. Put it right here.
Yeah.
State my name, as they say. But
you mean 30, right? Not 31.
Yeah, wildcard 31.
Want
sorry.
Wildcard 31.
Yeah, that was mistake. Yeah, that's it really. So no wildcard for me. You might. I would thoroughly consider the wildcard in your.
No, I am, because see, here's the thing. There is absolutely.
I feel like we talked it out as well. Like, the thing is, the information is not going to be so extreme that you can't quantify it within a solve. I think like we'll get the Haaland information. I think hopefully.
No, but even if we don't, I can just assume he's not going to be back, and so.
You can, yeah.
But I don't go for Marmush as well, because I have to
Ooh.
shield myself
The
somehow.
hedge.
Because
Yeah, I
no, you
see.
saw like the Wildcard 30 solve right now is Isaac Mateta and João
Yeah.
Pedro, which is okay. I mean,
Is
it's
that
not the
presumably
greatest.
because you haven't raised Marmoush's
I
rated
did,
decay,
I did.
right? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Marmush is on 85 right now, so 85 and going
And he
down.
doesn't appear on the solve?
No, oh, he was in the
Close. He
third
was
best,
like, okay, in
third
proximity.
best
I
solve.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
All
so
right.
you know the screen where you see how solves go.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And for the
He's
longest
the
time,
fourth
he was the top
striker?
solve,
Oh,
and then
okay.
he sort of like
I
dropped
see.
down
Okay, I got
by a
you.
couple of places.
Yeah. I think also it's nice to see finally that Mateta's minutes are pretty respectable in review, as they should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like Isak Mateta plus another player. It could be Marmoush, right? But it also probably means you're dropping Palmer, and I think the solve just really likes keeping Palmer because of the fact that he's the Gameweek 30 captain. He's also most likely going to be sold in Gameweek 33 potentially. Or if you keep him, he also is like really good to see out the season, because I think what I'm seeing a lot is potentially selling Salah on 33. I don't know if you're getting something similar, and then
Yeah, I am. Yes.
Palmer becomes someone who kind of holds off Salah ZB quite well until the end of the season. So yeah,
Actually, no Palmer having no Palmer is actually a pretty good edge already. Just because the uncertainty. I'm pretty sure he's going to start. I'm not going to change my stance based on whether I'm wildcarding or not.
Yeah.
But I still think the minutes are capped, right? Because that's how I've been solving for
it's a tough
week now. Yeah, it is very tough, man. I mean, it could easily backfire. So I don't know. Maybe this is a good way to get more differential expected value. I don't know. That just
one thing I say about the kind of wildcards that I'm seeing is just that, God, do they look awful? Generally,
they're bad.
Like,
they're just bad.
So bad looking.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like it brings you to some of the players you really don't want to own. But
I think if you have team value like yours, I think you could make it work. Yeah. I just think if you're a pauper like I am, it just becomes very difficult. Just from a although, to be honest, like for example, you can easily let go of someone like Trippier, right? I think you can, for example...
I wouldn't go here for him, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Wan-Bissaka and Saliba, maybe there's something we can do to change that up. The only concern, obviously, is that you need 15 players now. You can't just go with dead weight because you want to bench boost in 32, 33, whatever is the case.
Fair.
So that's... Yeah, as people can see, we are very uncertain, and the graphic by JC actually sort of highlights our uncertainty in especially the latter part of the season, right? Or the latter half
like
of the latter part of the season. Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of things up in the air, and I don't know. Maybe it's better to hold off on the wildcard for all that information, but I mean,
you won't honestly, get more information on 36 and 37.
Yeah,
right? So that's what I'm trying to say. I actually don't mind the wild card, but it's just, we all know, like, it's like, in theory, if no one gets injured, then the amount of information we're probably going to get from now till the deadline, I think, on most cases, is going to be very minimal in terms of how it changes our wildcard 30 and 31 teams. But we've been surprised twice already this season, like quite impressively. So yeah, and we might still just be wildcarding anyways if we get all the information we want, right? Like, we could get the fixture information for 33, 34, and we could just get Haaland diagnoses. Like, why not? Yeah.
But even if we want to preempt something like that, what could it be? Like, for example, people are talking about Aston Villa Villa Spurs shifting to game week 36, regardless of what happens in the FA Cup, because of the fixture congestion. If Villa are still in the Champions League, but the decision has to be made earlier, or rather Spurs also being in Europa. That's like it's two ways. So I don't know. Do they have to make a decision by game week 32? I think, or thereabouts. So you're right. I mean, we are not going to find out anyway about anything that is a post Game Week 34.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Like that information is going to be hidden
Exactly.
as it is. Even if I wildcard in 31, maybe it is worth. Maybe the Holland injury is the one piece of information that is worth.
I think so. I think it is. That is the biggest
more
piece of
than
information. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
Alrighty. So you've confirmed the wild card, right?
You know what? Okay, so this is a very intangible point, but I'm going to be traveling, or I'm not going to be at home for like 4 days during like after Game Week 30 and 31, between 31. So I might as well wildcard right now when I'm actually at home and I have time to think about it.
I like to hear
So that might actually make my decision easier. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we wanted to go through some MD versus MO insights, and I think we just wanted to walk through some of the players that you actually might see on the wild card. Crystal Palace players, I think a little bit less so, because I think it's more likely that you carry 3 attackers, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think part of this is because Murphy just feels so unreliable for minutes. If you had better estimations of Murphy's minutes, I think you could go towards a Crystal Palace defender. But the reason why a lot of us, I think, will go double Newcastle defense is just, especially if you bench boost on 32, you want to triple up on both teams. You want to get guarantees from both teams. You might not get that from Murphy. So with Newcastle, it's probably best to go double Newcastle defense and Isak. And also, as it stands, of course, Gordon's suspended for Game Week 30, but who knows? Maybe on a wildcard 31, Gordon pops up, right? Because he's playing football at that point in time. So Guehi and Lacroix, not too much of an edge, right? So I think very, very close. Guehi a little bit more favored towards MD. You think that's probably more on things to do with, like, let's say, I guess, how many touches he gets on the ball, bonus impacts, things like that?
I think so. It's going to be projections of these very minute details, and also maybe goal threat, but I'm not going to be too certain about that because I don't think review is too keen on sort of inflating defenders' expected goal share. So you're probably right
your
about
gut
that.
feel. Do you think there's any difference between going Guehi or Lacroix? Like you think, or do you think they're pretty much going for the same pick? And you say 0.2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I agree with that. I think Also, so I sent you Mitchell, but the point for comparing them with Mitchell, and so Mitchell is like close to the 0 line. So I think that's because markets, I think, are massively overestimating Mitchell's goal share, I think, compared to review. So that's probably the reason why Mitchell is closer to being equal on market and odds. Market and massive data.
Interesting.
Compared to someone like Lacroix and.
Let me pull up Mitchell, anyways.
Yeah.
For science.
Yeah. So, like Fran said, that's the only reason why I think that's the only reason why he's closer to the median line.
Yeah. Also, Mitchell, well-renowned, terrible fullback from an attacking point of view, but
he's gotten so many assists though this season. It's crazy. Like for example, the assist in the FA Cup was like he passed to Eze and then Eze just sort of dribbled through 3 players and then finished bottom corner from outside the box. That's crazy.
Well, before I talk about defenders and getting deserved assists, let's just not go there. I mean, I think he's definitely like quite XAG dominant as a player, and I think playing in a back 5, like you'd be shocked if a defender actually doesn't get any kind of outlying numbers. But yeah, he's a bit of an eyesore.
Diogo Dalot.
Yeah.
Diogo Dalot,
he's
the Real
impressive,
Madrid.
Though. I mean, he finds ways to miss like key chances.
He does.
But also, I think Mazraoui, is to blame. Like he could have got an assist recently too. So it's not just Dalot.
I mean, Dorgu is going to be back, right? So it's good news for people.
Exactly. Right. So back to Eze and Sar. Nice to actually see a little bit of a flip, right, for Eze, because I think for a while we were the haters, you and I. A lot on pen share, a lot to do with, like, I guess this season I feel like one of the things too with Eze is that his underlyings have dropped a fair bit. Whereas Sar has just been nuclear hot, right? So we can see a bit of a flip on both players. Why do you think that it's so dramatically changed for SA? Is it just purely getting penalty share right, or anything else we've missed?
I think it's primarily that, although maybe it was worth keeping track of how his penalty share has gone in review.
Yeah.
What is it now? If you can, I don't know if you can check, but let me see if I can quickly find.
I tend to think it's because the season long averages are averaging, but
Yeah, okay. So he's still at 22%. So I don't
Yeah.
think it's dropped by too much. He's still at a pen share which I don't agree with. So it's
actually,
an interesting
I'll
thought.
posit something because I think SARS probably had his best season in a while, right? Even from an underlying point
Yes.
of view. So I
Yeah.
think maybe it's also like how
The
fast
goal share,
certain
the
things
goal
have
share has
adjusted.
changed.
Yeah, and then also
Hmm.
just probably the markets were quite low on SAR as well. And I think it makes sense going back to his like pretty poor season in Marseille. Whereas SA had really good underlyings, was
And his best
quite
season,
hot for a
right? Last
while.
season,
Yeah,
yeah.
but now his XG's
Yeah.
dropped quite a fair bit, like npxG that is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And
That's interesting, actually.
I can't really say what's dramatically changed about SAR's season because I feel like he's apart from like a small dip in minutes like 3-4 weeks ago, he's been like someone who's had really consistent underlyings and had really strong baselines all year long. So it's
And
interesting.
the funny thing is, both of them scored in the FA Cup as well. It's not that
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
the FA Cup is driving maybe a certain change in expectations with Eze for market odds,
Yeah.
because both of them scored. So if anything, it should have, like, the behavior should have been near identical. Even you should see some deviations, but near identical, I would say. I don't know. What we can say for sure is I think markets are not as keen on Crystal Palace defense as review is, I think. Because Dean Henderson was also showing up in some solves for me, even though he did disappear finally because Nick Pope and Ederson are there, I think, covering both double game weeks, so
Yep.
you don't really need a Crystal Palace goalkeeper. But with attack, I think it's more of the goal share. I think it's just review and markets are clearly differing on what the goal share is in the Crystal Palace squad.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about it too because Crystal Palace have been like really good in terms of their season long underlyings.
Yes.
But yeah, as having a slight drop in terms of his share in the team, I think is probably what's happened. Which is, I think, interesting in light of the context of the narrative of Eze being much worse with Elise gone. Because you
We
now
love
actually
those.
have someone sort of replacing Elise's production, obviously much less creative, but
Yeah.
has become so much more of a goal threat in light of that. And you'd think Eze would have just taken up more share of the team and maybe kept his underlings, even if Crystal Palace got worse as a team, but they really haven't gotten worse as a team. Maybe this is also a full season long impact of having Glasner in. But yeah, I don't know. But some people might say that it's only just because he's got great players like Wharton, Mateta, Eze, Sar, you know, and maybe Glasner will be found out soon.
No,
But
Wharton being back is a really good point.
it is.
Unfortunately, there's not like a clear line where we can show here that, okay, as soon as Wharton was back,
Yeah.
look at these graphs sort of tending
So that
either
was
towards
satire,
review or
by the way.
towards.
I actually don't believe that that's
No, I know.
the case.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You did give us the side eye, so I think that was pretty clear.
You never know. Some people might not be watching the side eye when they're listening back on Spotify and all other platforms, which we
Fair.
support.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, let's just move on to Livermento and Burn. Nothing too significant here. I feel like I can't think there's anything unique to any of these players really. It's just I think a reflection of Newcastle defense. It feels like.
Yes.
Yeah, and review a little bit higher on Newcastle defense than the markets, but a positive sign for I guess drafting in players. I guess intuitively maybe there's not much of a differentiation between MD and MO in terms of these two players, but then if you just had to make that decision between picking them, are you kind of pro Burn, pro Livermento? Where are you at?
I think Dan Burn, just because of the multiple
head.
positions he can always play.
Okay, yeah.
and maybe goal threat as well. I think he has. I'm not going to say significantly higher, but
They actually
at
both
least
have like
he's
0.06 XGI, I think.
that's
Something like
see
that.
that's the
Per
thing,
90.
right?
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
and it's because
But
I
Dan
think
Burn has a big head, man. I also think there's a soft impact of like Livramento might just be awful at left back a little bit. Not like from an
that's a
attacking point
fair
of view.
point actually. Yeah.
Is all. So I might be minded to go big Dan Bernardino.
So Emil Kraft is the only recognized defender left, right? Who can play
Like,
instead of Livramento.
you mean like what? Like
Do, do we see
in a fullback position?
do we see anyone else? Yeah, I mean I'm just trying to think of,
No.
is there any way any of these players could be benched? Dan Burn, I don't
think so.
there's
Especially
a
with
chance.
Botman sort of being cooked. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So because Botman is cooked, I think it makes things very easy. It's just you have to go for one of them, and Burn is cheaper, and I would have gone for Burn in either case. So
Yeah.
this actually makes it so much easier.
All right. Last one's going to be Marmoush and Mateta, and actually interesting that once again not much differentiation at this point in the season. We did talk about Marmoush, and I think, look, I mean, to be fair, he's only played in the Premier League for like 10 odd weeks, maybe less.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the impacts will change a lot, and it's an interesting one because he's obviously come from another league. Expectations are hard to sort of create, I think, and transpose, and I think that will just continue to go up and down, maybe as we get more information, and of course as we have like little impacts like factoring in at what time we run these analyses and what level of information we have over Haaland and what that means for penalty share, etc. So I think it's going to be pretty erratic for the rest of the season, but it actually seems like maybe, because we were mentioning that Marmoush doesn't appear on some of the review wildcards. I guess the question is just going to be about CF share, pen share, more so than what markets think versus what review thinks, I suppose.
No, so with Marmoush, there's one thing, not just Marmoush, I think with all the players.
Yeah.
Which is that as we move towards the end of the season, we have to shorten the window of rolling sums.
True.
So for this week, I had to look at a 9-week rolling sum now instead of 10 because there is no 10th game week after game week 30.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to keep shortening the window now as we move forward. So I expect to see more volatility in the graphs just because we're going to look at shorter and shorter windows. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice with that. So with that, I mean, at least Marmoush's graph will appear less smooth compared to what it is now because, like Fran said, he hasn't played a lot, so there's no scope for it to be. I'm trying to think of a word. It doesn't have the personality, I think, that most other graphs have right now. Like for example, you can see Mateta is like clearly favored by market a lot, and then he's now sort of leveled off.
It's
because
kind of the inverse of Eze's graph, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I wonder if I could. Yeah,
absolutely.
I could actually
superimpose them.
Yeah, if you want, but
that would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, true. But I think, Mateta's had a huge season in terms of sort of establishing himself as a pretty dominant level striker in the league.
Yeah, I think he has to be probably one of the few nailed choices on Wildcard 30 or 31, regardless. I think.
Yeah,
I would say because he has been back and he played a number of minutes in the FA Cup game. So, and also he played like, what was it, the internal game that they arranged before that game. So
yeah, around 60 minutes.
Yeah,
and
he is on track now. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. So maybe your closing thoughts on Marmoush. Like, do you see yourself wildcarding into him? Like, let's say we got, if you actually knew Haaland was out for a while, would you find a way to put Marmoush in your wildcard? Maybe just drop Palmer.
Yes. Yeah. So Palmer is not in the wildcard anyway. So I would just
because you're sorry, yeah.
Pedro.
My Palmer's your Odegaard, if I can say that.
Yeah. That's actually brilliant. And honestly, I was thinking about it, and so if I don't want to go left field with Saka, which I obviously will not.
Yeah.
Then if I want to keep money to get Saka, then I have to find a way to, I don't know, have Palmer and then move him on to Saka or something like that. So maybe I will need to find money somewhere else because I think Saliba is not just on the cards for me. I'm probably going to go with Timber over Saliba, but if I do
That's a
that,
good point. Yeah, Timber's
yeah,
actually a quality pick, and I think his
yeah,
minutes aren't have been, and have been a little bit too low in review. I also thought that Timber's minutes could be a little bit nuked with Ben White coming back, but I think he's honestly so good that
he is so good.
I just have
Yeah,
to say I was
honestly.
wrong about that. Hard to
Yeah.
say.
I mean, there is a discussion to be had later in the season. I think if let's say Arsenal somehow miraculously get past Real Madrid and they get into the semi-final, there's a discussion to be had around, okay, are Timbers minutes going to be affected in one of the league games, which
True.
would be sandwiched
Yep,
between
I
the
think
two
that's
games.
possible. But it could
But
also
right
apply to
now,
Saliba,
I don't
right?
think that. That's
Like
true.
we've
That's
seen, for
true.
example, when PSV had that game, the second time round versus Arsenal, we saw Saliba being dropped. So, and I think a lot of people's expectation was Saliba's going to play that game, Gabriel will get dropped, right? Because that's happened in previous seasons. So, yeah, I think Timber's the most likely suspect, but then also one of your other CB options are also prone to it. But I think that would have to be in a position where Arsenal were somehow completely out of the league title race, you know.
See, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, even if they are, they can't show it.
Yeah.
They have to pretend to keep going until it's mathematically out of their reach.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I was thinking that at least they have to pretend to care about it. So it's probably going to be that.
Okay. I think there's not much xMins discussion, so we can just quickly go towards captaincy for this week. It's a tough one to call because I think Palmer's probably been training for a while, but there's a lot of depth now, and he has been injured, and that's true. I think it's quite likely that Palmer's probably going to play something like 80 minutes of football, 70 something. So we would have him based on our Min's projections, having Salah as the dominant captaincy, then Palmer, then Isak. But then actually the question of Marmoush is we think right now Marmoush's EV could change, right? For the for the better. So he could be the best option that is non-Salah. And I think that's quite significant to mention for a lot of people who don't have Salah. Yeah.
I mean, if you have Salah, I don't think there is a discussion to be had.
Yeah, I think it's
I think every single option below Salah right now has uncertainty enveloping them. There's like some sort of uncertainty. It could be injury, it could be penalty share, it could be for other picks, yes. But even for Isaac, again, I could easily see 88th minutes up. Like I don't think that's not on the cards. So if that's the case, then I would just go for the pick who's definitely going to play 95, and I think that's only Salah. It's going to be bad, and I welcome more and more people, and I've welcomed more and more people into the club of getting absolutely railroaded by Salah. I wanted to say something else, but I can't say that. But absolutely trashed by Salah. So yeah. How's it felt, Fran? Just your closing thoughts on not owning Salah.
I mean, you already kind of explained at the start, especially like keeping Palmer has been so brutal over this run. I don't know what to say really. It's just been ass. Yeah.
That sums it up, I think. Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, for the most part, I've only owned one half of Salah, right? I can't imagine what it was like not owning two of them. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
The Newcastle game, right? I think most analytics people didn't captain Salah in that game.
Exactly.
But yeah, we saw exactly what happened in that game. So yeah, there's a lot more games, obviously, but that was
such a minimal impact too. It's really been like the Ipswich swing with Palmer, the Trossard captaincy that I pulled off a couple of weeks back, and then Leicester as well. Fun stuff. Although, I mean, the Leicester one, I think I knew I was fielding the worst captain, but hoping for a better result, of course.
For sure. Yeah. But see, I think we have been vindicated there, and I don't want to go into the whole slot should have rested players because the PSG game was coming up. But you saw what happened.
We were celebrating when Liverpool got knocked out of the
100%
of the Champions League, and
I think we were 100% logical with whatever our thought process was. Like you said, on paper, I think Salah was still the better captain.
Yeah.
But the decision to go for Palmer was based on something which did not materialize because I have actually no idea why it did not happen. Why there were no like changes made for the Southampton game. So, I mean, yeah, we did celebrate. I'm not going to lie. It felt good. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally why Liverpool lost, by the way. Those two games. Not really, but we did celebrate anyways because like people who captain Salah do, they celebrate on us when we celebrate our downfall. So we have to celebrate Salah's downfall as well as the best Premier League player who's absolutely destroyed us. So let's maybe move on to Q&A. There's not too many questions in the chat. Thank you guys so much for listening to the pod. I think it was fun to sort of walk on the decision making for Wildcard 30, and I think you are in a slightly closer position to Wildcard on 30 than myself, right? Just in terms of like our teams with one free transfer to go. But yeah, a lot of people suggesting that they'll wildcard, a lot of people saying that there's a lot to think about, and I think that's the issue, right? I think what you need to do is you almost need to carry a wildcard draft into the deadline of Gameweek 30, and then wait for some of the information that you want to come up, and then you can actually activate the wildcard. I think activating the wildcard now is a bit risky unless you're, like for example, that guy is in the chat. He's good at Assistant Manager 31, so you kind of already have to lock it in. I think most people really shouldn't be chasing price rises today and tomorrow. You can maybe leave 0.2 of team value to the wayside and just get a better information built wildcard going. And maybe not even a wildcard this week. And that's the kind of most crucial point that I'd probably like to mention. You might not wildcard this week if you get the information you want. So who knows? Someone's suggesting wildcard 32 in the chat. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. It depends on how good your team is on 31, I think. I
think it makes more sense for someone like you, right? Because you don't have enough chips left. Like you don't need all the chips across all double game weeks. So I think it makes sense for your team maybe. But correct. I think I have too many chips.
You have too many chips left. Yeah. So many people are set up to play 4 chips in a row, basically. Yeah. And I think if you've got 3 chips, you can certainly consider wildcard 32. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think 3 at 34 is just super locked though. So it's really just bench boost 32 versus 33, and then I guess wildcard 30, 31, 32. Which it's so hard to quantify how important or how good the wildcards are because it's all so prone to changing with information, especially Holland. Because as things stand, I think we expect Haaland to be back for the double in 33, and it's really nice that City actually have games that are important to them. I guess arguably quite important that he came off of a game that was still important for City for the season. So you can probably infer that it's somewhat significant, the injury. But then also, like we saw with him previously with the kind of contact injury he had in the Champions League, he took a rest one game after that, and then came back to sort of starting full 90s after that. So you never know exactly how bad injuries are. So I think right now, what would you think is the fair estimation of how you'd, I don't know, plan out Haaland's minutes if you were wildcarding? You said don't wildcard him at all.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying, like, if you want to go Marmoush, I would look at the most pessimistic scenario, which is that Marmoush only plays 90 minutes of Leicester with penalties.
Yeah.
And after that point, he doesn't have penalties for sure. He doesn't have a guaranteed start for sure. Like there's nothing that is going to be certain. So if you want to work off that assumption, I think Marmoush could still be worth it once review updates penalty share. But given my estimation as well, which is that Holland is going to be back for 33 right now, because there's nothing like this estimate is just based on status quo. Yeah. It's not based on any injury information. So it could easily be that he's out for a long time. But like you said, if we find out that he is out for a long time, I definitely think Marmoush is going to be part of the wildcard squad. It just makes too much sense, I think. And maybe I would need to forego someone like Guardiola, which I hate doing because I think he is genuinely one of the best picks from now until the end of the season. But I don't see any other way around it for
Do you
me.
think Nico O'Reilly could impact how good Guardiola is as a pick?
But do you not think something similar to today would happen where Kusanov gets up and Guardiola could move into
Oh no, I don't think
center back?
Guardiola's minutes will. But I'm just talking
Yeah.
about the kind of attacking output
Oh, I see what you mean.
and all that.
That actually is a very valid point. Because ultimately you are buying him this season not for the clean sheets necessarily, because in previous seasons I think that was
Exactly.
the most important aspect of City defense, which was the clean sheet was, I mean, around 50% for most
Hopefully,
games. So we don't have that anymore. So that's a fair point. How do you think, how likely do you think it is that Nico O'Reilly is genuinely going to play minutes? Is it like the perfect time this season because they want to get top 5, and once they get closer to that goal, and then there's more freedom to play him or something like
it's
that?
an interesting thing because I think part of it is the players that they played today as well, like in terms of not actually having the kind of wingers that he's been sort of setting up with, like that sort of double winger setup.
Yeah, but Savio was like had the birth of his child, right? So he was out because of that.
Yeah,
So we might expect the same setup moving forward, right, in the league.
could be. I mean, it's little things like, yeah, I really think that's sort of my question. I think as a Guardiola owner, like it goes back to what set piece threat sometimes. Then also, I don't know.
No, but okay. So let me ask you the
Doku.
complementary question: which 5 defenders would you go for, and why would they be better than Guardiola? Even if let's say Guardiola has
No, that's totally
almost
fair.
no attacking threat.
I think we have
That
we
I
would go
think
Guardiola
that
anyways because
yeah.
we've just seen Kuchinov just get mudded,
Yeah,
and he's better than
absolutely.
Diaz. So
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd go Guard. Yeah, I guess it's a question of probably if you think suddenly if Ederson's better than Guardiola, and if you could want to go Foden or someone like that somehow.
Oof.
But as we can see, also, maybe not.
Foden actually is, again. You know what? I would rather go Foden than Odegaard, honestly.
He's also in that territory, isn't he? Because if Haaland's out for a while, like you just got to spread those minutes between Foden, Marmoush, those sorts of players. Everyone benefits, and they all get increased goal share. So Foden, I think, would suddenly be on like my wildcard draft on 31 if I thought Haaland was out for like the rest of the season or something like that. I don't think it looked that bad, if I'm honest. But then also, like, we have no idea how bad it was. There's like he went to the sidelines, stepped back on the pitch for like 5 seconds, and he knew he was done. And
so how did it happen? By the way, we are not going to start dissecting the injury, but
kind of chasing for a loose ball, had a bad impact, didn't look so bad, and then he kind of just sat up and asked for treatment. But I think
we know that there are like dead leg
impact.
injuries, right? Yeah. Where you like get a hematoma and then you have to come off because of the hematoma, but it obviously resolves itself in a day or two.
Yeah.
So we have seen a lot of injury types where people cannot continue running because it's like physically not possible to run, but it's not like long lasting. So there is a chance that happens, but obviously we have no idea right now. So going off the information that we have right now, I think Foden should definitely have more minutes and more goal share, like you said. And so if anything, I would maybe go for him, and then he would be a placeholder for Saka. I don't know. I mean, it all just depends on Palmer, I think. How many minutes you think Palmer plays this week, and what is the impact moving forward, I think.
Yeah. It's a good point that Neil mentions in chat as well, in terms of City and Villa players not being necessarily better than some single players. I think, yeah, when you wildcard on 31, that's a pretty big consideration, because suddenly you've already gone past Leicester at home for City. And then it's not that beautiful. So maybe a goalkeeper would be there, but I don't know if Foden's that important. As far as like players like Rodgers, maybe not that important. I still think Watkins is pretty nailed on for a transfer. Like if you moved Mateta out.
Yeah. I see Isaac to Watkins actually for my team, but you might be able to afford Mateta to Watkins maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do, but I would be selling Salah in the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Also assuming that Haaland's there, right? Yeah. As in, I would have to bring Haaland back
Hmm.
potentially if I wildcarded without him somehow.
This is all sounding very tricky, honestly. This lack
Well, the
of
thing is, if you
information. I mean,
wildcard on 30, you could just roll 3 times into 33. Well, not roll 3 times, but you roll 2 times and you got 3 transfers from 33. So what I was looking into was if I went Haaland less, went to City, what would my draft be on 30? Like, what would my team be on 33? It would be, yeah, I just swap Salah back to Haaland again. And then also bring Watkins in.
that's fair because you only need one, or rather, you only need two free transfers to make that swap because the wild card would take care of the first swap.
Yeah.
Moving back into Salah, so that actually makes a lot of sense. And so the Wildcard 30 solve on review has Salah and Rogers for my team, and I think it's because obviously team value. So let's assume, I think the difference in our team value can be like you said, boiled down to Odegaard versus Palmer. So let's assume that the rest of your team structure would be somewhat not, let's say, identical, but somewhat similar. So I think Pope Ederson is, I mean, I don't think anyone is going Ederson, but let's just say for the sake of, because I know it's Ederson is such a review darling that he's always going to be there. The only way to not have him there is to ban him from appearing in solves. So Gabriel, Van Bissaka, Cher, Saliba, Guardiol. I think Cher obviously is very expensive, so I would substitute him with Burn, and I think that's probably the backline, or maybe Timber over Saliba for me. And then Salah, Eze, Palmer, Ismail Assar, and Rogers. Those are the 5 mids in this team. So maybe that's the way to hedge either for Saka coming back or Foden or Holland, whichever way you want to move in 33. And Watkins, obviously. Like Watkins is, I think, part of the conversation regardless of what you do, but you have to reserve one free transfer for that move. So that's why I'm thinking of him.
Yeah. I have got Kluivert on mine over Rogers as well.
But he doesn't have any doubles now.
Yeah, but he just has better
right?
EV all the way there. So it kind of goes back to Neil's point on some of the Villa players aren't.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So I'm thinking defense wise, I think Villa defense is completely off the menu for me. I don't think there's any single Villa defender. So maybe that actually could work out. Someone like Kluivert or I mean, I don't want to go Semenyo because he's on 9 yellow cards now. So I think that's definitely not.
And
I'm not going to chance
there's no way you would. Yeah, like Rogers, I think at that point is better.
Exactly. Yeah, if I want a yellow card, I'll get it from the player who is lower priced.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, maybe that makes sense.
Alrighty.
Nah, I think the takeaway from today's episode is that there's so much uncertainty and we need some information desperately.
Yeah, so, I think for me the most important thing is Haaland.
Haaland, yeah, that's the only bit. Yeah.
And then
unfortunately, even if I wildcard this week, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of a single price rise because I will be waiting till Tuesday to wildcard, even if I do. So
well, that's the thing. You have to.
Yeah.
One thing that I've looked at on the wild card is if I bench boosted on 32, that's part of the reason why I quite like going Nico Williams or someone like that as my 5th defender. Just really good value, and if there's like a cheeky double that comes out of Nico, like I think that'd be great.
So were you going to bring Isaac back this week or next week?
Well, it would be next week at this point because I prefer my Isaac now.
Okay, so I'm looking at live FPL price predictions. Isaac and Sar are rising tonight.
Yeah, they are.
Or could rise tonight.
And there's also a couple big projected drops, right?
Yeah. Dango is dropping. Chris Wood is dropping. And Kerkez could rise. I mean, Kerkez is probably...
Kerkez is not going to...
There's no discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But does that
So,
mean you're going
were
to sell
we
Dango?
murdered by the double? Sorry, were we murdered by this result, or do you think it was beneficial? Like,
The Bournemouth lack of double?
yeah.
Interesting points. I think we actually weren't. Because I think if I'm being honest, a lot of people did wildcard in 29, and I think it's mudded them a bit more.
That's true.
And I like that. So yeah.
Fair.
Because you have to think about your competition, right? Like
That's
I think most
fair.
people would have adjusted towards Bournemouth anyways. But now people own triple Bournemouth. And if you think about it, like for example, Kirk is just going to rise tonight. And fair enough, they might get all their value back versus Ipswich at home. But ultimately, you probably don't actually want all those Bournemouth players on your wildcard on a 30, on a 31 wildcard, and you won't. So you're
there is a chance that
them.
Bournemouth double in 36, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Yeah, if
Because
Man
it's
City
United,
wins
right?
against Forest, no, if Man City wins against Forest, yeah, the game is no. What double is that? Sorry, I have.
No, I think you must be talking about. You must be talking about your own team, right? Oh no, actually you're right. City.
No. Yeah, City. Yeah. City Bournemouth is the game. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
City Bournemouth game would move to 36. So there is still a chance, which means that if Bournemouth for sure had a double game week, it would have meant that we would be invested anyway, and so that would have been a bonus. But now we have to sort of hedge if Forest is going to win or if City is going to win. Because so for full disclosure, West Ham has already put out. I don't know, is it a press release or something saying that their game would be moved to Gameweek 36 with Forest. So if Forest wins against Man City in the FA Cup semi-final, they will have a double game week in 36. Which means, actually we missed that point. I had briefly mentioned it, which was that maybe Forest defense is better than going Crystal Palace defense, because you can triple up on Palace attack and then have two Newcastle defense and one Forest defense. I think that would make hedging a little bit easier for you.
I think I'll go Williams, probably in that situation.
Because of the price difference, right? Because Aina has risen by like 0.9 million. It's
Aina's
crazy.
5.3. Nico Williams is 4.4 and looks just as nailed. Actually, it's really good underlines as well.
He has,
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, some of that has to come from that the 7-0 goal, which was like literally in front of the goal, and there's like the goalkeeper is nowhere to be seen. So maybe that's a huge cause. Sorry, you were saying something.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, I guess even that press release probably has the same implications for that Bournemouth game as you mentioned. It's a fair point. There's also you guys.
We don't even have odds right now.
A Chelsea game too.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even have odds right now for any of the FA Cup semi-finals. So I just put in 50% because I mean, there's no way to speculate right now, and I don't want to, if I'm being honest.
Well, that's pretty much why I think Nottingham Forest will have to go to 34 because you just.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
And I think JC has covered that, right? If we go back to JC's graphic for a minute. Yeah.
I mean,
makes sense.
The biggest.
That fixture is all over the place.
34,
yeah. That fixture is all over the place. Fair.
But actually, I think that presumably this was created pre the West Ham
announcement,
release, right? Yeah. So you'd probably add a stronger weightage to 34. I don't know.
No, but I think it means 36, right? Let me read it out, or let me at least read part of it. I don't want to read out the whole thing.
No, but what I meant is that because if you created a double game week in 36 because of a blank in 37, you can't reschedule the Nottingham Forest Brentford game to 36, right? So that would have to go to 34.
Yeah. No, but they're saying to the midweek of Tuesday 22nd. That's when they will play the game week 37.
But the thing is, you now have a blank from the semifinals, but you also will have a potential blank because of the finals, right? Is that your point?
No. Why would the final cause a blank? The final is after, right? So I don't understand.
No, Nottingham Forest versus West Ham is the game week 37 game.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
yes.
So
So
you're
if
moving.
Forest,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, I see what you mean. My bad,
No, that's right. That's right.
my bad. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it doesn't
It's
matter.
good to hash that out.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah. It doesn't matter. My bad. I don't know what I was thinking.
No,
Yeah.
but the FA Cup finals also that's what the West Ham press release means. It's basically if um Forest playing the FA Cup
To
finals.
give
Yeah,
them more time. Got it.
yeah.
Yeah. Now I
But
understand
that's the
fully.
thing too.
Wow.
So as you mentioned with Spurs and United, like you could also create a blank there. Like we could see two
Hmm.
blanks basically on
We could.
36. I mean 37
Yeah.
that get moved to 36. So
Yeah.
because I think that there's a chance that Nottingham Forest can make it to the finals, it's most likely that Forest game just goes to 34. The
Hmm.
Brentford Forest game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we could actually get some value from Forest later down the line in 36, which is nice. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So roundabout way of saying what my original thought was, and
Yeah.
then I lost my train of thought. Ehsan also is saying if everybody goes wildcard 30, then 32 gives you an edge.
I mean, you
Uh,
definitely do,
it
as
yeah.
ever, really.
I mean, yeah.
But I
But
mean,
you're
but that
losing the edge for
that's the
2 weeks,
same
right?
logic
Yeah,
as Wildcard
exactly.
31, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
As I said, it goes back to like if you have a good 31 team, because when I look at my team in 31, it actually is pretty decent. But then it's like, I think it's nice that I've gotten out of my Liverpool players.
Hmm.
But I'm actually pretty down on Newcastle players. So Newcastle faced Leicester, I believe, and then I think Crystal
Yes.
Palace have a home game as well. So those kind of soft impacts are quite nice. Like a lot of the players you move in a 31 wild card are players that you bring in specifically for 32 and 33, but actually they've got a good fixture in 31. Whereas now my team, I've got some Bournemouth players who still have a good West Ham game, but I've got another mediocre Everton match. I've got a João Pedro away game. I have, well, for now, an injured Holland. Probably Dango with suspicious minutes again. And I think a lot of us have injuries. Like I still, I've carried Hall all the way until now. So yeah, team's looking dire. But if I get there, I don't have any issues with just playing out to Gameweek 32. What would make you
I
Gameweek
think for
32
you it is a
wildcard?
legitimate
Yeah,
probability. I think.
if you thought
I
about it.
mean,
I'll need to
no,
have
I
a
mean
think about
obviously
it
I can't.
myself. Yeah, I know
But I
you
think
can't.
you definitely should, because first of all, I think your game week 30 EV is absolutely just, I mean, fine. I don't think there's any need for you to wildcard this week. And even next week, if you're saying that you're not missing out on too much expected value, then
It's a good point,
it's
actually. I think, yeah, I think either I wildcard on 30 and we have somehow all the information I want, or I wildcard on
correct.
32,
Yeah.
now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because again, it's closer to your next chip, right? Which is the bench boost. If I think this is the perfect scenario for you. You are going to be closer to a bench boost game week than most people in the field. Because I imagine very few people are going to wildcard in 32.
that's true.
And see, your trepidation from previous season was that you wildcarded too soon and you lost out on information that majority of the field had,
Yeah.
even though you finished like top 1K in the world. So this time it's the opposite way. You are waiting to gain even more information than most people in the field, which I think is, if anything, it's a better way of going about it.
Oh, God. That means bench was 33, though.
Yeah. So were you not? Oh, you were trying to do 32 then. Okay.
I actually think
Okay.
32 is better than 33 right now as things stand.
Okay. Hmm.
But I mean, it's not a problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
definitely there's enough information gain for me to 32 wildcard. So I might actually do that.
I think
That's
the
extra
fact that you
stressful.
already have Munoz is great. I mean, that just sort of, it's a perfect hedge. You don't need to, like, it's not tripling up on Palace, but you have already Munoz, and I don't know, could you get a second player from Palace if you wanted to?
I don't think so.
I don't think
Because this week
it's still a
I
problem.
think I still would go Isak then. Like I might go Isak over Marmoush in that case.
Because you need him for Leicester.
And then
Yeah.
maybe I would just roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
would just roll on 31.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's something to think about. And then actually bench boost 33 will be quite differential because most people will bench boost 32. So it comes down to how good my bench boost 33 is, because I'd set up a perfect BB33.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll need to think about when we get the information on 36 though.
Oh, you might actually be right on the edge. Like it could be that you wildcard in 32, and after the deadline, you start getting information about what's going to happen
I just
later
think
down
it's
the
so
line.
unlikely though, because
yeah,
Gameweek
exactly.
36 is like 10th of May, and
Yes.
Gameweek 32 is like 12th of April. So
I think we'll have the information prior.
yeah,
to
if we
the
put
deadline.
it into now,
Yeah.
for example, we think that we're gonna get news on Gameweek 33, which is on the 19th of April, and we think that that information will probably come in like not even tomorrow or before the Gameweek 30 deadline. We think that information will probably come on the Friday, on the 4th of April. So we're saying that, you know, they've already given me what, 2 weeks of information. So I wouldn't be able to carry that until Game week 36 just happens a little bit too late. So the only pro that I'll have is
also it's these game weeks. I think there's more of a chance to delay the announcement compared to later game weeks, because there are tournaments which are not in the control of the FA. So I think there's a need to make these changes sooner than the changes we are talking about for 33 and 34.
It's true.
Because that's completely within the domestic setup, right now. So I don't know. I mean, this is all speculation. Obviously, I'm not as qualified as someone like Ben or Tala or James, but that's just what I'm thinking. Like, if you want to delay, I think 32 could really be a nice place to delay it until.
I'm gonna think about it quite a lot actually. Stressful, but fun. Okay, I think that's pretty good. You've decided that you might wildcard 30 quite heavily. I've now decided I might wildcard 32. Yeah. What a podcast. Yeah. I don't think we have any other questions in chat today. So it's been a nice episode in terms of hashing things out, thinking about some ideas. I've got to say, once again, those wildcard draws look absolutely horrendous on 30, but what can you do?
There is a reason we did not show a single draft on stream.
Yeah, that's true.
It's because the draft I sent Fran was...
They're not safe for work. So
yes, they are not.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you again next time. Nice to be actually doing back-to-back episodes on consecutive game weeks. So thank you guys for your patience over the course of the season, and thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks guys, take care, bye.